Hello, it's Friday, August the 22nd, and welcome to SOCI 4323 Population Studies. I'm Steve Blanchard, the instructor in the course. This is an introduction to the course video, and I'll be doing probably as many as one a week. Maybe there'll be a week that I won't make one, but on average, let's say about one a week, beginning again next week, once the semester is officially underway. But I thought for this video we just kind of walk for a moment through the syllabus and a little bit about the course. The blackboard is set up, the syllabus is up there. I haven't posted the readings yet or the first assignment. These are things I'll do next week, but you can go up to Blackboard and kind of take a look at sort of the organizational structure. I will be posting a discussion theme. Discussion is very important in this class because we are online, and whereas in a more traditional model we'd be sitting around a table, this is a senior level course, and having a conversation about themes of population studies. We don't have that in this course. We're online, so the discussion is sort of our virtual table of discussion, or virtual seminar, undergraduate seminar table, if you will. And participation in the discussion is essential, not only for the construction and maintenance of the course, but for our own individual learning and engagement with one another and talking about topics at hand. So be sure that you are participating in discussion. I'll talk a little bit about that again here as I get to that point. This is a course in population studies, but we're really going to be social demographers. And I say, well, why didn't you call it social demography to start with? Well, we might in the future. Start off with population studies. Demography sounds like a strange word, and population studies sounds sort of familiar. So sort of getting the course started with something like population studies, but with no intention of misleading. You'll see in the syllabus, even though we call ourselves population studies course, we're going to be social demographers. Population studies looks at the broad contextual issues related to population dynamics, which fits us. The more formal name for that would be social demography. Demography itself is about largely about three components of population change: fertility patterns, mortality patterns, and migration. How different race and ethnic groups have different fertility rates, different mortality causes, and different features of migration, international and internal to the states. And that's really what that demography is about. That's a formal demography where we look at rates and things along that line. Social demography takes the fertility patterns, let's say, and contextualizes them into what might be happening that influences the behavior that leads to change in fertility. So we'll talk about that. This is a downstream view of something that is important that we'll talk about. Sociology of Health is a companion course to this. I should say demography is the upstream, or population studies is the upstream view, and Sociology of Health in a way is a downstream view. And I mean by that a lot of the emphasis in the program, sociology program, and in this course is about health, even if it's expressed in terms of mortality and characteristics of births, low birth weight, and that sort of thing. It's the downstream health profile, shall we say. How did that downstream health profile occur? If we look upstream, we look at behaviors that lead to, say, fertility. If we look farther upstream, we look at the context, cultural context, other kinds of context that might lead to the behaviors that lead to that fertility. Sociology of Health is about the context upstream. Demography is about, and population studies is about, the downstream effect of that. So they're in tandem, they're partners, they're a set. So taking the demography class or population studies, at some point you'll want to take sociology of health. I think 2 or 3 of you are in both courses this semester. So we'll spend some time talking about population studies, demography, social demography, and all of that. And there is a layout here. of that discussion, the beginning of it, on the syllabus. There's an image on the syllabus of the demographic transition model. Take a close look at that. It is an essential image to gain an understanding of. It will sort of be a foundational image for how we move through the semester, why it is that fertility patterns, the transition of fertility declines from high to low. Why does the mortality transition go from high mortality to low mortality? And why does mortality transition drop sooner than the fertility transition? Those are diagrammed out here. You'll see that. We'll talk about that. In fact, the textbook that we use speaks of transitions: mortality transitions, health transitions, fertility transitions, migration transitions, all kinds of transitions. So we'll be talking a lot about transitions. Take a look at the readings for the first couple of weeks, and you'll get your mind around the transitions and all. There is on the second page kind of a statistical modeling. We're not going to do statistics. You will be calculating out rates and stuff on an Excel spreadsheet, where I embed the formula and then you enter the data, and you'll see how things change as a result of that. But we're going to be looking at this upstream downstream in kind of a statistical framework without doing the statistical calculations. Why is the outcome, the variation in fertility? Why does it vary? We look upstream to behaviors. What are the behaviors that are triggering that? And further upstream, the context. So if we look at the context of, say, non-Hispanic whites in one area versus the context of non-Hispanic whites in another area, and we see two differences in fertility behavior, then what is it about those contexts that is stimulating or influencing those differentials in fertility? So you'll see that on here. It's y equals xi plus wi plus zi. I'm a statistician, so I think that way, and we will think basically in an abstract way, use that to model our thinking as we look at contextual influences on changes in population dynamics, fertility, migration, and all. So there's quite a bit of that on page 2. We come to student learning outcomes on page 3. The outcomes of social understanding, which is really about the contextual influences on human behavior. In the case of this class, on the behavior of fertility, on migration behavior, what's happening in the place of origin that encourages people to move to the place of destination, or vice versa, what attracts and pulls them from the place of origin to the place of destination. That's a transition. We'll be looking at that. The methods themselves, how you calculate out rates, mortality, cause-specific mortality. We'll have some basic stuff of that. Look at the patterns. Why are major causes of death different for African Americans, for non-Hispanic whites, and for Hispanic whites? Why is that the case? We'll look at, we'll operationalize in a way the sociological imagination, which is, for me, say for example, I have my own personal narrative. I've come to the age that I am, moved through my life, and to some extent who I am is a reflection of all the contexts that I've passed through since I was a little kid. Family context, school context, neighborhood context, time context, 9/11 context, all kinds of contexts. So the sociological imagination is to imagining how we are who we are based on the context that we've come through. That's sociological, the contextual perspective on human behavior and on the human narrative. So it's something to keep track of. You might think, well, why is that in this course? It's just generally a good perspective, shall we say. But if we've got patterns, let's say, non-Hispanic whites, say, may generally have a similar fertility pattern in their aggregate narrative, then, say, African Americans' total fertility rate may be different in their pattern in the aggregate. So it's an important concept to keep in mind. The other student learning outcomes are more specific to the course, and they are about learning about demography, social demography, what the difference is between rates and ratios, and how to calculate out those, and what are the population trends, why is the population growing so quickly in the world, and what does that mean in terms of the holding power, shall we say, of the planet. Can the planet sustain this, and some degree of conversation about the relationship between the environment and population. We'll address that too as we go through time. We're going to take a look at social demography from 4 geographic levels: international, national, state, and local. We're going to start internationally because I think that would be a good place to kind of get the interplay between the relationship between context and population outcome. For example, just doing some comparisons, say, between the United States and Afghanistan. Everybody knows about Afghanistan. Why is the total fertility rate, which is the average number of children a woman has, why is the total fertility rate for women in Afghanistan different? It is, we'll see that it's different than in the United States. What are the contextual influences of that? So we'll use the international kinds of comparisons and examination to kind of get our minds and hearts around what the idea of social demography is all about. And then we'll look at national stuff. We'll bring it down closer to home. Look at some race and ethnic differentials nationally, and maybe be surprised that fertility and mortality patterns are very different by race and ethnicity within our own country. And then we'll take it down to the state level, and we'll be surprised that they are very different at the state level. And then we'll take it down to the local level, say to a below county, and again we might be very surprised that, or maybe not by then, that they're very different. And we're doing this to kind of bring it down locally, understand the dynamics that are happening around the world that are the same dynamic happening in our local communities. Our goal in this is to get an understanding so well of all of this that we can become community health practitioners. We can go out into the world in our local communities, look at the differences of fertility and mortality, and have a good sense of why that's the case. You may be practitioners. You may want to work for a community-based organization. I do a lot of work in community health. That is my community health practice. And population studies and social demography is an instrumental, key, principal piece of all of what I do. And you'll see how that plays out. So I think you'll like the structure as we move down and begin to target locally. If you're in Houston, we look at Houston. If you're in Lafayette, we look in Lafayette. But we'll talk about that later on. Attendance. There's no attendance in an online course, but there is in this sense, and that is because of participation and discussion. Now, I'm going to hold you to so many participations discussion per segment of the course, some range, and I'm going to grade it that way. Not to push you around or anything like that, but just to push you around a little bit. But the participation in the discussion is attendance, so be mindful. On the 3rd page or 4th page and 5th page I talk about that, and I provide you a rubric for the sorts of your approach to discussion, how to bring your comments in, how to respond to others, not so much how to, but be civil and all that. We can have discussions, we can have disagreements, we can even have arguments, but we'll be respectfully so. But how to bring things into the discussion, and again, imagine this is a virtual senior level senior seminar table, and that's what we're doing in discussion. To the extent that we all participate, the more vital that virtual seminar becomes. So discuss. I'll be up there. If you have a disability that creates an issue for you on this course, be sure and you let me know. It's on the syllabus about that, so be sure and let me know. On academic dishonesty and plagiarism, I don't think really where that sometimes happens, and it's inadvertent, is that when you retrieve something from the web, you say, well, it belongs to the web, it belongs to everybody, it's a wide world web, right? Well, you have to cite it just like you would if you retrieve something out of a document like a book or an article. So just be mindful of that. As far as working together, I encourage you to do that. I don't see sharing work and talking about work as being dishonest or anything like that. It's, if we were physically present to one another, I would encourage you to go and have a study group or something. And you may have an online study group if you like. Maybe that'll work. This is the main text. We'll go all the way through it before it's all over with. It's a good book. Been around a long time. I've met the guy, and I've even used the book in graduate class, and I had it in a graduate class when I got my degree in population studies at the Population Research Center at UT in Austin. You'll have this, you'll have Prof's notes every week, you'll have Prof's YouTube video most every week, and then we have discussions. So those are the, and then there'll be readings. I'll be posting readings. Don't think I've got the readings up there yet. I'll be working on that later this afternoon and on Monday. And I think that's about it, really. Oh, I should say that the means of assessment are Blackboard discussion, 20%, and then an assessment or an assignment for the international level, the national level, the county level, or state level, and then the county level. A lot of those will be on Excel spreadsheets that I will design for you, embed the formula in there, so when you go get your data that you want to use, and we'll talk about what that data will be, you can put it in there and then watch things happen interactively on that spreadsheet. And then as time goes by, you can get more familiar with it. You can create your own spreadsheets if you like. So there'll be 4 assignments, 15% each, and then the final exam will be 20%. The final exam, I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet. Let's see how I spoke about it in here, if I did. Probably, I don't see that I spoke about it in here, but I'll talk about it in the next week or two. Will probably be some sort of an exam, an essay of some sort that I'll give you, put it out there and give you a couple of days to respond to it on the theme of social demography, where you will integrate the things that we've done in these assignments. It'll be something like that. We'll talk more about it right now. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. You'll see when you get to the last page that there are the courses organized in segments. Segment 1 is what we're going to be doing over the next 2 or 3 weeks, the introduction. Segment 2 is international, 3 is national, 4 is state, 5 is county. And that's, I think, pretty much it. Just going back through here, looking at the pages. Oh, on the front page, one thing I want you to do, because it's fun, and it's a great visualization. If I can find where he is here. Let's see. I've got him here somewhere. Well, there's one that I see right off the top of my head. I don't see the other. Probably for the Sociology of Health course. I do have a link here, but when I send you the YouTube video here, I'm going to send you a link to Hans Wrestling, and you'll see a short video that he does that looks at the relationship between life expectancy and social context. And life expectancy is the average number of years a population lives. Like, for example, non-Hispanic white males about 80 years old, 80 now, so half the population lives to 80 and the other half, or dies before 80, the other half dies after 80. Life expectancy has been increasing, and I'm surprised I don't get here, but I know it's here. But I'll double check, and if I don't see it on here, I'll send it to you. I'm not sure why it's not here, but it will be soon when I send it to you in the email. But there is a link to a blog that talks about upstream, so take a look at that over the weekend. And I'll send you the YouTube before the end of today. You'll look at the YouTube, what you're looking at right now, and then the Hans Wrestling link that I'll put in that email. So I think that's it. I'm looking forward to the semester. I am a population analyst and social demographer, and I look forward to working with you this semester. And this is Friday, so there's a week coming up. You be safe out there.